Good morning, this is your Cherry Peak Ski Report for Saturday, April 1st, 2023. Live from the Snowcat, we have a mid-mountain base depth of 76 inches, with 28 inches of new snow in the past 24 hours. April Fools! We've received 6 inches of snow in the past 24 hours. In this past storm, over 2 feet of snow, so it's great conditions at the peak. Come get your fresh turns. Today's operational hours are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. day skiing and 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for night skiing. We'll be operating Gateway Triple Chairlift, Vista Triple Chairlift, and the Summit Lift. We'll also be operating the Magic Carpet. This will service tubing and the Bunny Hill. Well, it's that time of year. Get your annual pass now. Buy today, ski today, and save. Get your whole family involved for as little as $749 for your whole family. Go to skicpr.com or simply follow us on all social media for any further updates and details. We'll catch you at the peak.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without a homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show on this Saturday morning, April Fools, and really no pranks because Mother Nature has, she's been doing enough joking the last couple of months.
Yeah. April Fool, spring is here.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it yet, but we sure are looking forward to it. It is the Garden Show here on KVNU with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. We'll feel right here with you again on this Saturday morning. We want to just kind of begin the show by mentioning that due to some scheduling issues, we're not going to be taking calls today, but we're going to be answering a lot of questions that are coming in from people. How to take care of their fruit trees right now, how to take care of their lawns as they're starting to finally see some lawn again, and how to be able to get ready for the growing season that we're hoping is coming up soon.
I can't think in my father's lifetime, and Dad lived to be 92, a time when he couldn't plant his early spring crops in March. Mm. And we did not have one chance this year to plant them in March. So like spinach, lettuce, radishes, onions, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. We always get a week or two of nice weather in March where you can get out there and
put in some of those winter crops.
Plant those early spring crops, and we just didn't get it this year. Yeah. So it's been definitely a different March than what we're used to.
We were talking, just a couple of us the other day, just wondering, how are the farmers going to be doing? Where they just are, how are you going to be able to get 3 cuts of hay this year?
You'd be surprised. I mean, Mother Nature kind of compensates for things like that. So what we found with, like, say, peas and some of the early season crops that we would normally have planted, 2 or 3 weeks ago, if we plant peas on the 1st of March, or we plant peas on the 1st of April, or we plant peas on the 1st of May, they all produce the second week of July.
No matter what.
No matter what, yeah. So they will compensate for that. But you plant them earlier, and they just tend to produce a little bit better because they're maturing when the temperatures are a little bit cooler. But they still will produce when the soil finally warms up.
Better root establishment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But they'll still produce the first or second week of July, no matter when you plant those. That's like a 2-month difference between the 1st of March and the 1st of May. It's like 2 months difference, but they'll still all produce about the second week of July. Okay. So farmers should be fine to get planted. I mean, soil's kind of wet, so even if the snow is all melted off your garden, it's still kind of muddy out there. It's really hard to plant. But hopefully hopefully, got my fingers crossed, maybe next weekend things will dry out enough. We can get a lot of those early crops planted. So by no means is it too late to plant like anything, because we're just in the first early crop stage of what we can plant. Onions, spinach, lettuce, radishes, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, kale would be fine. So those are okay. Usually by the middle part of April, we're transitioning into doing like potatoes and carrots and parsnips and beets and chard. They are cold tolerant, but they need warmer soils to germinate, and so it's a little harder to get those to come up. Planting them in March because the soil's just too cold.
Yeah, still.
Yeah, but I really think the soil's going to warm up very quickly, because I've seen like our rhubarb at home is already coming up, and it's coming up underneath the snow. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people's bulbs have come up, and they're coming up underneath the snow. I mean, so the plants know that the daylight hours are getting longer. Mm-hmm. They've already sensed that, and so things are starting to happen. And so even though we've had some cold, wet weather and lots of snow, and the snow just doesn't want to go away, ground's still warming up. Yeah, ground's still warming up. So we'll be fine.
We've been watching our fruit trees in our backyard, and looking at them thinking, it's time to prune.
Yep. I was out pruning this week. Did my cherry trees, and it's got nice big buds on it that are just, they're not swelling, but they're there, and you can tell that it's like got lots of life in it and ready to go. We got our peaches pruned, and we pruned our nectarine, and got the apples and the pears, and I was actually training a couple of our crews from Logan Extermination on pruning. So they come to my house. Dad's got 20 plus trees in his orchard, and so we'll just spend a day. Yeah, and I'll spend, I'll do one tree with them all together, and I'll teach them how I do it, what I watch for, and what I'm working on, and then I'll split them up and send two to a different tree. So then they split up in twos, and then I'll come behind them and watch and kind of give suggestions and say here. And so then they get like hands on with somebody watching over them. And then after they do a tree or two, then it's like, have at it, and I'll just come and check your work. And so it can get, 20 to 22 trees done in just like maybe 3 or 4 hours. But it's not too bad. But it's a great opportunity to train 6 or 7 people how to prune trees properly and show them where to make the cuts and how to make the cuts without doing damage to the tree. But we were pretty aggressive on the trees. They'd send a lot of suckers up this last year. I mean, even as dry a summer as it was. Man, my apples had 2 to 3 feet of growth on them, and just tons of water sprouts.
Going straight up.
We just had to go in through and just take all those out. So, it takes a lot of time, and then we're all done, and I'm looking at the trees, and I'm going, dang, they just kind of look empty there in the middle.
A little bare.
Yeah, a little barren, and a lot of growth out on the outside that we kind of, shaped and trimmed back, and I'm just kind of looking at them going, dang, we really had to take a lot out of those trees, but they'll be all back again this year. They'll be like full of leaves and looking good. So.
Just what they want.
Yep.
So we'll be talking about pruning. We want to talk about fertilizing trees, because we're getting into that time where you want to fertilize and treat the trees for, of course, with insects coming up. But first, we want to talk about everything going on over at Anderson Seed and Garden, because the Bare Root sale is on.
Yeah, Home and Garden Show was fun last week. It was great. We had really good turnout on Saturday. I thought there was tons of people. It was a little slow on Friday. I have to admit, it was kind of slow on Friday. But it did snow, 10 inches?
Yeah, I think the weather was quite an impact.
Yeah, it's not very nice. Yeah, not very nice. But it was a great time. We got to visit with a lot of people and tell them all the things that are happening at Anderson's. Of course, we are loaded up with bare root plants. So all the bare root fruit trees are in. We've got another batch coming the week of the 10th with a few varieties that I don't have in stock right now. So there's like the Stellar series of peaches and a few apples that I can't get from anybody else. So I've got like another 400 or 500 trees coming, but right now we've got probably 800 in stock. And so we've got really good selection right now. But strawberries came in this week and are ready to go, and we've got blueberries and we've got raspberries. Well, not all the raspberries yet, because our local raspberries just are they're still underneath snow. So hopefully this next week we'll have raspberries. But blueberries, blackberries, grapes came in this week as well too. The grapes look amazing. They look really, really nice. Currants and gooseberries and asparagus, onion plants, and we're getting onions every week. So if you've been kind of struggling trying to figure out, should I go get my onions? Should I just store them? Should I keep them for a while? I've got onions lined up for the next 6 weeks. So onion plants are going to come in every Thursday or Friday every week for the next 6 weeks. And so if you want to get onions, I think what's going to happen is we're going to get them in on Thursday, and by Saturday afternoon, they're going to be gone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so try and shoot for like Friday, late Thursday afternoon or Friday or Saturday to come in and get the onions, because as many people as have had to wait to plant, those are going to disappear really quick, even though I've got them lined up every single week. But if you come in on Monday or Tuesday and we're out of a variety that you're looking for, they'll be back in stock later in the week. So they're lined up to come. Asparagus are here. Potatoes are here. There's a couple varieties of potatoes I'm waiting on still, but almost all of our potatoes are here, and all of our seeds, probably 98% of our seeds are all here and are ready to go. There's just a couple of varieties we're still waiting for, but we're pretty much there.
Great time, because especially as we get into the full planting season, everybody knows the lines that show up at the seed counter. Yeah, and so right now is a great time to come in, get your seeds early.
Last couple of years, we haven't had lines because people have been ordering early.
Doing it online.
They've been doing online, and so they've been ordering and then ordering online and then coming in and picking them up or letting us just ship them to them or however that works. And we've got our new website that's probably going to go live here any day now, or like really close. We're just getting the last few bugs out of it that we can find so far, and it'll make it way easier to order online. It'll be very streamlined. It'll be very nice. So we're excited about the website. But a lot of people ordering online, and then the last couple of years, people have come in early, like November, December, January. We had a lot of people coming in and buying their seeds just in advance, and not as much this year. So we could have a lot of people all coming in to get seeds all at once this year. So so it'll be interesting.
Come in early.
And
take advantage of the bare root sale at the same time.
Yeah, and when it's raining and snowing is a really good time to come in and see us for seeds, because it's just not as busy. And I've got plenty of employees to help, and they can help you plan your garden out and pick out the exact amount of seeds you need to cover your area, whether it's a 10-foot row or you're doing 5 50-foot rows of corn or whatever. And we can help you plan that out and figure out how much seed you need. And we can make really good suggestions on varieties that maybe you've never tried before, but want to try something new and something fun and something different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so a lot going on at Anderson Seed and Garden this weekend.
Yeah.
For April Fool's Day.
And then, we were talking pruning. I've got a class next week on pruning. So Thursday at 6 o'clock in our classroom, J.D. Gunnell from USU Extension is going to be doing a pruning class. So if you'd like to learn more about pruning and how to be effective and how to make the right cuts and all that information that you need to be a little bit more confident in your pruning, we've got a pruning class coming up, and I believe it is on the 6th. Yes.
Okay.
So Thursday April 6th at 6 o'clock, but you have to sign up for it on the USU Extension website.
Oh, okay.
So
you get signed up early.
Yeah, so it's extension.usu.edu is where you go, and then you can sign up for the class. And the pruning class is free. On the 20th, is it the 20th? 20th of April, we're doing a grafting class. So if you've always wanted to learn how to graft trees, so like maybe graft a different variety of apple onto your existing apple, we're doing a grafting class on the 20th. There is a cost for that one, though, but you end up going home with some new grafts.
And you've done in the class.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a hands-on, this is how you do it. You get to practice doing it. You get to take stuff home. Yeah. So this is a little more... obviously a little more expensive compared to free.
Right, exactly.
but
you get more out of it.
You end up with some rootstock and some cuttings to do the grafting with, and then you get to take them home and plant them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple classes coming up, 6th and the 20th.
6th and 20th, yeah.
Okay.
Should be great. And then we've got a class that we did this week that I think we had probably 30 people show up for. So a lot of interest in these classes, and there's some really great information, and hopefully we're making people better gardeners.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one of the questions that I've had is fertilizing fruit trees.
Yes.
For years, I've used the old little stakes,
Yeah.
putting down around the drip line.
Little fertilizer stakes, and just kind of pound them into the ground.
Pound them in, or I just take a shovel and just kind of help them down in and just leave them alone.
How big around are the trunks on your trees?
I've got 2 apple trees, both of which have about a 3-inch, 4-inch trunk.
Okay.
And then apricot, peach, and a pear tree that are fairly new.
Yeah.
And they probably only have about an inch.
The fertilizer spikes are really good for trees that are probably in that 3 to 4 inches or larger. And so they work great for bigger trees, and we usually recommend 1 to 2 spikes per inch of trunk diameter. And if you put those spikes down in the ground, they'll last for months. I mean, so you'll get good fertilization out of that for months. But if your trees are smaller, it's too much fertilizer in each location where you put the spikes in. So usually we'll tell people to either break them up, maybe halves or thirds, and then spread it out around the trees a little bit more, because it's hard to do that. But I personally like to use a granulated fertilizer for younger trees. So I've got a bunch of younger trees in my yard, and we've got like a peach. Actually, 2 peaches that are they're going to be 3 years old this year. And then last year I planted apricot and a white nectarine. Oh my gosh, that white nectarine. That was so good.
And you'll
I got
use
I got fruit off of it last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
First year.
Second year this year, I'm expecting lots of production out of them. But I fertilize with a granulated fertilizer, and there's a couple different ones you can use. So I've been trying a new one the last couple years. It is called ProGrow 365. So the 365 is a season-long fertilizer. You put it on once, it'll last 8 months. So it will feed your plants for the entire season. And so I'm very excited about how that has worked in my vegetable garden. And then last year we used it on our fruit trees, and they responded very, very, very well with it. So I'll be doing that again this year. And I like to do that after I'm done pruning. So this week we got out, we did some pruning, and I got to tell you, on Wednesday, we were out there in the morning. The sun came out. We were crunching in the snow as we were out pruning. And I'm like, I wish the snow would just melt. Crunch, 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 crunch. And by the afternoon, it was gone.
Started to warm up.
It was gone. And so I went to work, and I did a bunch of other things, and I got back from work, and it had started raining, and it was raining. And I looked out there, and I was like, all that snow I was crunching on this morning, it's gone.
Of course, then it came back.
And then it snowed again
Thursday night.
Yeah, it snowed again. Yeah, it's like, dang.
So.
But that's the time you want to fertilize. So when the ground, it doesn't even have to dry out, but as soon as the snow's gone, you can put the fertilizer down. And if it just happens to snow again on top of it, or rain on top of it, that's just fine. Yeah, that's just great. But if it sits on top of the surface of the snow, you'll lose some of that nitrogen to evaporation. It'll evaporate into the atmosphere. And so you're better off putting it down where it makes contact with the soil, and then whatever happens on top of it is fine. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So I will apply that granulated fertilizer for my smaller trees. I'm going to do it for some of my bigger trees as well too, and see how that works. And we've got a drip system set up for the trees, so it's really easy to water them, and that's gonna work out really well.
Now, do you usually put it just around the base, or just put it out around the roots?
Around the drip line.
Okay.
So out where the tips of the branches reach, all the way into the trunk. So I'll just broadcast it right underneath those trees. Okay. So there's feeder roots all the way from the trunk all the way out to where the tips of those branches reach. And so we'll fertilize that entire area. But a lot of people don't think about fertilizing their fruit trees. They just expect them to produce every single year. It's they produce every year. I don't really need to fertilize them. But over time, like say your trees have been there 10 or 15 years, they're going to use up all the nutrient that's there in the soil over that 10 or 15 years. There's not going to be anything left. And so we want to supplement our trees so that they continue to produce well for us.
Now, what about the tree treats? I know we were talking about those a week ago.
Yep.
Bicor makes those.
They're made right here in Cache Valley, and I've got 2 trees in my dad's orchard that are struggling a little bit, and one is an apple tree that is older than I am. And so I remember that tree was pretty good sized when I was a little kid, and it has continued to grow and produce. So that tree has been producing probably for 60 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's just kind of in decline a little bit. So it's got some spots where the bark's really kind of peeled back. It's got new tissue coming on it, though. So I'm looking at it, I'm going, dang, it's got a lot of new tissue that's fixing some of those wounds that have really been problematic. And so last year we put injections into that tree because it was really not doing very well. And a few years ago I was talking to my dad about it, and he's like, I think I'm just going to take that tree out. I'm like, no, save it. It's like one of my favorite trees. It's a great pie apple. It's a yellow transparent Lodi. Yellow transparent tree makes the best pie apple. It's the best pie apple ever. And so last year we put the tree treats into it, and it worked amazing. And so this year when we pruned the trees, I did the same thing. So we did a couple of the apples in his orchard that are bigger, that need a little boost. They're kind of in a spot where they are away from the other trees, and they just kind of need a little extra. So we did those. We did a cherry tree that's kind of been in decline a little bit, but again, it's got lots of new tissue that's fixing some of the wounds that it's got. And then I redid that apple tree again. So it's a perfect time to do those tree treat injections into the trees. And again, don't do a tree that's smaller than, say, 4 or 5 inches in diameter. We're not going to use the tree treats on a tree smaller than that. But if it's bigger than that, it's really the best way to go because it delivers the nutrient, all the nitrogen and the micronutrients, and especially the iron, right into the circulatory system of the tree. And it has saved a couple trees that my dad was ready to just cut down a couple of years ago. Yeah. And so that apple tree was super, super productive last year. And we must have made probably at least 10 pies off that tree.
Wow.
And that was just a handful of the apples that it produced. Handful of apples.
Tree treats would be great if you've got a tree probably over 10 years old or so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So the trunks we put into yesterday, we ended up putting anywhere between 5 and 8 implants into those trees, and it just depends on the size of the trunk. And it works great. I could see on the apple tree that we did last year that the wounds had almost completely healed over from last year already, so I could see where the wounds were.
Okay.
And I could see that the tree had actually healed over those wounds really very nicely. So that was encouraging as well too, because that tree was really kind of pretty looking sad last year.
Thinking you were going to lose it. And it came back.
Looking so much better. So great time to do the tree treats. Great time to fertilize, whether it's with the spikes, with the fertilizer stakes, or with the granulated fertilizer like the 365, or Fertilum has a really nice fruit tree food that's great too. It's easy to broadcast. It's got a soil penetrant in it, so you just water it afterwards. It dissolves, starts going down into the soil, feeds those trees for months, literally for months. Yeah, it's a great way to go. And then iron. If you've had some iron deficiency going on in your trees, this is a really good time to get that iron in the tree, because it'll pick it up and run it through the circulatory system when the sap's flowing the most vigorously for the whole season, which is in the next month.
Okay.
Yeah, from now until about the first part of May is like prime time for trees to be popping out. They're going to be slow this year.
Yeah. But best time to fertilize right now.
Yeah, right
Prune
now.
and then fertilize, and you're set.
And away you go. Last year, the trees were really slow to leaf out too, and it's not because we didn't have warm temperatures in March. It's because it was really cold and wet in April, and it slowed everything down. And so most of our trees last year didn't bloom until the last week of April, if you remember.
And it seemed like didn't we have a late frost?
We had a late frost. Well, it wasn't too late. It was like 22nd, 24th of May. So it wasn't out of average range, but we had a really cold, wet April, and we had a really cold, wet May. And fortunately, here in the northern part of Utah, it helped get our snowpack up, and we had plenty of water to service our needs last year. Could have had more, but this year we have a little extra. Just a little bit extra. Yeah, we have a little bit extra. So
I saw a picture up at Beaver Mountain, and the snow has gotten up to the point where you can actually touch the top of Harry's Dream Lift in a couple places. And those who go skiing, you know that sometimes Harry's Dream is 20, 30 feet.
That's a good drop,
feet high.
If you had to fall off the ski lift. So, we got a little extra. We'll have a little extra water this year. maybe we'll be able to share some with the Great Salt Lake. So,
yeah. Well, and let's just hope it. And it's great as long as we can just slowly melt it off.
Well, I'd like to see the river full right now.
Down.
It's not full right now.
No.
We need it to be full right now for the next 2 months so that when June hits, it will stay full for 2 weeks and then it will be done. We need to move it.
That would work.
Yeah, we got to move it. So we need about 3 weeks of 70-degree temperatures in April, which I would love. And that will move a lot of that snow. It'll decrease it so we don't have like that big, huge runoff that comes all at once.
All at once, the big tidal wave.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Well, you're listening to The Garden Show here on this Saturday morning, April Fools. And coming up in just a minute, we'll be talking lawns. A lot of people seeing some vole damage, and we're going to see a lot of snow mold, too. This time of year. And so we'll talk about how to treat your lawns. And don't forget the bare root sale going on right now at Anderson Seed and Garden.
You got it. Best time to come in and get those plants while the prices are good and while they are available, because they're going to be gone before you know it.
And grab your seeds while you're at it, and you can save from fighting the crowds later on in the season. So, lots still to talk about. Like I mentioned before, we're not taking calls for this particular show, but we've got a lot more questions that we're going to jump into coming up next here on The Garden Guide on KVNU.
I'm Bill Walter, KVNU News. Law enforcement have arrested 2 suspects accused of causing a bomb threat at the North Logan Walmart. The store was evacuated Friday afternoon after the 2 teenagers allegedly told an employee there was a bomb inside the store. North Park Police Chief Kent Goodrich said shortly after police asked for the public's help identifying 2 teenage boys seen on security cameras leaving the store, tips started coming in. Within 90 minutes, officers had arrested both suspects who admitted that the threat was meant to be a joke.
They thought it would be funny. He commented that it probably wasn't the smartest idea this close to the shootings that happened.
Both 16-year-olds were transported to the Cache Valley Youth Detention Center. They were booked on suspicion of making a false alarm, a second-degree felony. Their identities are not being released due to them being minors. There were no injuries reported during the incident. It happened just 2 days after police responded to a report of shots being fired at Green Canyon High School, also in North Logan, which turned out to be part of a nationwide hoax. Utah is no longer in an extreme drought for the first time in nearly 3 years, according to data. According to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's U.S. Drought Monitor map, which updates with the nation's drought status by state every week, Utah came out of the extreme drought it had been in since June 2020 as of Thursday. And more precipitation on the way, especially for the mountains and also in the valley locations. Rain and snow developing Saturday night, becoming all snow by Monday. For the latest news, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports, I'm Mark Remillard. Just a few games remain in the NBA regular season, but many teams are still eyeing a playoff or play-in spot. We start with the Suns hosting the Nuggets last night without the Joker.
So Durant, a fadeaway 16-footer. Looks good. It's good.
Arizona Sports 98.7 FM on the call. KD had 30 points, leading the Suns past Denver 100-93. The Celtics looking to close the gap out east between them and the Bucks with a win over the Jazz.
Kick out to Tatum, another 3. Good night.
98.5, the Sports Hub with the call. Jason Tatum finished with 39 points. Boston beats Utah 122-114. With the Sixers beating the Raptors earlier, the Cavs look to stay on their tail, battling New York.
Bates away from 18, hits it. Brunson.
98.7 ESPN New York on that call. Brunson's career-high 48 points pushed the Knicks past Cleveland 130-116. This is ABC Sports.
News Talk KVNU will bring you the complete coverage of General Conference for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The conference sessions will air Saturday from 10 till 12, 2 till 4, and 6 till 8. Also Sunday from 10 till 12 and 2 till 4. Listen live at 102 FM, 610 AM, and online at kvnutalk.com. Also on the KVNU mobile app. General Conference is provided as a public service of News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
My husband had a gun. Him and his friends would go shooting. When he stored the gun, he didn't know. In a million years, we never thought that Emily could. There's a hole in our family that can never, ever be filled.
65 Americans a day die by gun suicide. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
I'm Buddy Valastro. When I was 17, my dad died of lung cancer and didn't have any life insurance. I had to drop out of high school and work 18-hour days to keep the family bakery going. I know life insurance would have made a huge difference. Today, I own life insurance to protect my family, and you should too.
A public service message from the nonprofit Life Foundation.
The Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Garden Guide on KVNU with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. I'm Will Feelwright, and welcome you to the April Fools. As we were talking about, I think Mother Nature has played plenty of pranks on us already.
April Fools, it's snowing.
We've had plenty of that. And you know what they always said, March comes in like a lamb, goes out like a lion. It seemed like March was just roaring all month long.
Yeah. How rude is that?
Yeah.
Just when you can't even get outside to scratch a hole in the ground to throw your peas in, or your lettuce, or your spinach, or your bare root fruit tree, or your strawberry plants. At the Home and Garden Show last week, we were laughing about it. It's like, okay, you could plant these pansies today if you went home and dug a hole in the snow and put it in there, and then as the snow melted, it would just kind of like go down and kind of fall into the hole.
So
that's kind of the way March has rolled this year. But now it's April.
Yes.
We'll have turn of the calendar, a whole new leaf for spring this year. We're anticipating some warm weather and some wonderful days where we can get outside and plant all the things that we were supposed to plant in March, and we'll just plant them in April.
And we'll still be getting, looks like, a little bit of moisture to go along with it.
Yeah. Would not be surprised that we just kind of keep getting some wet, weeks that fall in there. So we got to take advantage of the good weather when we've got it. Get out there and do some planting.
You were joking about bare root trees and trying to plant right now. You have a huge selection of bare root.
Great selection. And so whether it's apples and pears or nectarines and peaches or cherries or apricots, whatever it is that you're wanting to plant. We even have some combo fruits this year that are, pluots and plueries. So it's a combination between a apricot and a plum and plum and cherry. Those are really good. We've had those for the last couple of years. They're getting more and more popular. They're really, really pretty cool. So a really great variety of trees to choose from. A lot of very hardy peaches and nectarines that are Zone 4, which is hard to find, Zone 4 peaches and nectarines. And we've got many communities in our valley that really need Zone 4. Yeah, otherwise they're just not going to do very well. So great selection on the fruit trees right now. But if you wait and some of those really nice varieties disappear, we just won't have any more till next year. It's just they just disappear, and once they're gone, we can't get any more. In fact, this week I ordered all my fruit trees for 2024.
Already put the order
in for next year. Yeah, so we have to order them that far in advance. So when I have customers that come in like middle of the summer or even September, and they're like, I want to order trees for next year. It's like, I already got them ordered. It's like, sorry, I ordered those back in March, and hopefully I've got the varieties you're looking for coming. Because if you don't order them now, I don't get them.
They don't get them.
I don't get them. Yeah, it's like some of the availability is already gone for next year. So most companies are ordering over a year in advance, and most of the growers are anticipating planting new crops 2 years in advance. And so a lot of those trees are sold just when they start propagating them, because it takes about 2 years to get a tree that's 4 to 6 feet tall, and so they'll sell them just as they're planting them. So it's kind of crazy. But we talked fruit trees in the first segment,
talking about pruning and fruit trees. We need to get to lawns.
Yeah,
that's
we
one
really
thing
do.
I know you're getting a lot of questions on right
now. A lot of customers in this week that finally got to see some of their lawn, which is nice, but they saw vole damage all over their lawn, or they're seeing really slimy looking grass out there that's got snow mold. So we've got a couple diseases, and we've got some rodent damage that we've really got to kind of address as the snow melts. And of course, if you hadn't realized it, we've had snow on the ground for almost 5 months. Since it started the early part of November, ruined my plans to cultivate my garden because the snow just never melted when we first got it, just stayed. And I was hoping to be able to cultivate my garden one more time. But anyway, so that snow has stuck around for a long time. And then we've had big piles of snow where the snowblower or the shovel had to pile the snow up. And it's for some people, that's still not gone. That's still there. And so underneath, we're going to have some grass that has been under snow for almost 5 months. And so we've got some snow mold issues. There's a pink mold and a gray mold that just kind of deteriorates the grass right underneath the snow. And so now, as it's coming out of dormancy, it's a really good time to treat that, to try and fix it. So best way to prevent it is to apply a fungicide in the fall. So whether it's f-stop or whether it is we've got a couple different ones that would work really great for that. So the f-stop's really good. If you want to go with the organic one, the fungicide 5 from Fertilome is a new biological fungicide. It works on fungal diseases as well as bacterial diseases, and I'm pretty sure it's got snow mold on there. It's really a great product. It comes in a hose end as well as in a concentrate, so if you want to use liquid, that would be great. But if the grass is just really damaged from the snow mold and you just need to get some new grass in there, now's a great time to plant. You know, it's a little bit early, soil's a little bit cold, but if you can get that seed out there, get it to make contact with the soil, even if it gets a little snow on top of it, that's just fine. That seed will be great. It's just going to be a little slow to come up right now. So, ryegrasses and fescues are going to take 10 to 14 days for it to germinate. Bluegrasses are going to take 21 to 24 days. They're going to be a little bit slower, so you just got to be patient with them. Try and keep a little bit of moisture out there so that seed can find a home in the soil, can start to germinate, kind of take root and come up. And that's a great way to kind of rejuvenate some of those spots, especially where you've had snow mold damage, but especially if you've had vole damage. So my customers that are seeing vole damage, really the best way to do it is to rake your lawn. Just kind of rake it up so you get all the dead matted stuff down, get that kind of pulled up a little bit, and then mow it. Mow your lawn really close. So drop your mower blade down really low, mow it.
Just scalp it.
Yeah, it might be kind of bumpy where the voles have maybe done a little bit of damage, but just mow it. And then if you need to, you can bring just a little bit of topsoil in and just kind of groom over the areas where they have damaged the grass. The grass will recover on its own, but it's going to take a couple months for the grass to fill in where they've done some damage. And so if you want it to come faster, this is when you definitely want to overseed with some new grass seed. And so a little bit of topsoil in, just kind of groom it over the spots where it's been damaged, and then seed that new grass, rake it again afterwards. And I'd recommend right now, our Colorado premium mix would be excellent for patching grass. It's got bluegrass and it has a couple varieties of turf type rye in it. The turf type rye is very, very resistant to insects and very resistant to diseases. And so you'll see fewer disease problems, and you'll almost completely get rid of any insect problems that you've got because they won't eat the ryegrass. So your bill bugs and your white grubs, so from the June beetles that we see in May and June, they won't eat the perennial ryegrass. And so you can eliminate insect damage by using the right kind of grass in your turf. Yeah.
And uses less water, I assume.
Much, much less water, yeah. So not only can you use it to patch some of these areas and it blends in really nicely with your existing grass, but it's a great time to overseed and encourage some of these newer grasses into your existing turf. Say your grass is only 10 years old as it is, which isn't very old for lawn because lawn can last 50, 60, 70 years. Yeah. But if you can overseed with some of these newer varieties of grass, they use half the amount of water or less to stay green. They are disease and insect resistant. So if you've been battling bugs in your turf for years, this is the best way to prevent that damage from happening, is to incorporate these new grasses into your turf. And then all of a sudden you don't have to put an insecticide on your lawn any longer, because there's no bugs there, because they won't eat that grass. They'll just leave and go to your neighbor's house,
okay.
which is even better. Yeah, which is even better.
Push them over across the border.
And so, right now is a really great time to get your lawn aerated, mow it really close, incorporate some new grass into your turf. You could get maybe 25% integration with this new grass, and then do it again in the fall. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden half your grass is this new variety, and it will take over your older grass. And you could water once a week and keep your lawn looking really great through the summertime. It was Gordon that called, was it last week? And he said he only watered every 2 to 3 weeks last summer.
Oh, yeah.
With the Marks mix. And his lawn wasn't perfect, but it really wasn't bad. And then as soon as it started raining in August, it just perked right back up. So the Marks mix is a variety of turf-type rise and turf-type fescues. And so it's a little coarser grass, but it's really, really drought tolerant, and I've never seen anybody that's had insect problems with it. It does get a little bit of the snow mold, but it resists like necrotic ring spot and summer patch and all those other diseases that cause problems. And so a great variety of grass. But for overseeding, like a Kentucky bluegrass lawn, the Colorado Premium would be great, because it's got 4 bluegrasses in it and then 2 kinds of rye in with it, and it just kind of blends in nicely.
Mixes in
really well with your existing grass. It might be a darker color. It might be darker color, and if you use that to patch your vole damage or your snow mold damage, you may want to do more of the lawn, because it looks so good. It looks so good. Yeah, and you don't have to water as much, and you don't have the bug issues. So really great time to do that. And then after you get the seed down, now's a really good time to fertilize. So usually we start fertilizing around St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Or we're 2 weeks behind.
Yeah.
But that's not terrible. We're just a couple weeks behind.
Now, what about for the best way to get rid of thatch? You see this a lot this time of year. The snow starts to melt.
If you can do it naturally with humate, so like the humic from Natural Guard or from Fertilome, you can do it naturally that way, and you don't have to do the power raking and do all the work, because you power rake your lawn and then you have a truck full of thatch you got to just haul off and get rid of somewhere. The humate will actually decompose it naturally. So if you're doing an application in the spring and an application in the fall with the humate, it's very inexpensive to do, and it will save you hours of backbreaking work and a rental of a power rake to take care of that. So we have been doing it for probably close to 30 years on our turf, and I've never power raked my lawn.
And
ever.
It keeps a lot of the nutrients in the lawn.
It does. It breaks the grass clippings down, it breaks the thatch down, and puts it back into the soil and makes that nutrient available to your plants. Breaks down all that organic matter that's building up out there, puts microbes and microorganisms, micronutrients, and minerals back into your soil so your plants can pick it up and utilize it. Using the humate on your turf once or twice a year, it just absolutely makes sense, because it saves so much work. It helps with water absorption, puts all the good nutrients back into your soil that have been depleted over the years, and saves you all that work with the power rake. That's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's just so much work.
And usually you have such a small swath, and so you're just, it's painstaking just going back and forth.
Yeah, because you're only doing 20 inches at a time, and it's much slower than a lawnmower.
Yeah, it's not self-propelled
It
usually.
is not self-propelled. No, it's really a lot of work. But, spring is a good time to do that. Fall's a really good time if you end up having to do power raking. It's probably better for your turf to do it in September and October. It does less damage to your grass than it would in the spring. And same with aeration. You can aerate in the spring. It's really not a problem, but it's really better for your turf to aerate in the fall.
Do it in the fall.
Yeah, but after you power rake or after you aerate is an excellent time to overseed with some new varieties of grass, especially if you've got shady locations and the grass is kind of starting to thin out. Newer varieties of grass and younger grasses will do better in shady locations than an older grass that's kind of starting to thin out a little bit. So that really, really helps to mow closer in those shady locations and to yearly add a little bit of grass seed, and all of a sudden you'll have really nice, thick, beautiful grass in those shady locations that's maybe thinning out over time.
So some great advice if you've got vole damage, if you've got some snow mold damage.
Yeah.
Definitely now is the time to treat that.
Yep. And
reseed while you're at it.
And fertilize. So if you're going to put down seed, make sure you don't use a pre-emergent. So do not use a crabgrass preventer with fertilizer if you're gonna seed, because it will kill your grass seed.
Doesn't do any good.
It's not going to do any good. You're going to put that grass seed out and you're just going to waste it.
Kill it.
Yeah. But if you put down a good fertilizer like a 16-16-16 or even a 23-3-16, a nice slow release nitrogen, that would be excellent. So I will probably this week fertilize my lawn. I got my fingers crossed. Most of my big piles are down small enough that we should be okay. And humate at the same time. So I'll throw some humate out. I'll put a fertilizer on. And I don't use a pre-emergent because I just don't have that many weeds in my turf. And the pre-emergent's really effective on crabgrass and on foxtail and on goosegrass and spurge. And I don't have any of those in my lawn. I just really don't have a problem with that. So it doesn't pay for me to use a pre-emergent. I just don't need it. And so I'll do either the Southwest Greenmaker from Fertilome, or I'll do the 23-3-16 with our Anderson's Best fertilizer and apply that, put the humate on at the same time. And if it rains or snows on top of it, great. It's like, that's just fine.
No problem.
Yeah, but it'll perk that grass up really, really quickly, and it will just take off. And unfortunately, you'll be mowing a lot sooner than you'd like, probably.
You know what, though? I'll take mowing compared to snow shoveling.
Oh, I know.
Anytime.
I would much rather mow the lawn than do the snow blower up and down the driveway.
It's been a long winter.
I don't know. It just seems more productive to mow the lawn than it does to run the snow blower. And it's probably personal perception, but it just seems like a wasted time to have to do that with the snow, even though the water's really helpful. But mowing the lawn just seems like you're accomplishing something.
Yeah.
It really does.
And maybe it helps when it's 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
and you can do
it's
it
like
in shorts and a
enjoyable.
t-shirt.
In the evening, it's a little bit cooler. Yeah. But if you want to put a pre-emergent on, there's some really good ones out there. We prefer Dimension. Dimension comes in like the Fertilome Crabgrass Preventer plus Lawn Food. And that's a really great product to use this time of year. It will prevent new weeds from coming up, especially crabgrass and spurge and foxtail and goosegrass, a lot of those weeds I just mentioned. And it has a longer residual, so it's got a 2 to 3 month residual. So it'll really do a great job putting on. Really, we tell our customers not to put it on until the first or second week of April anyway. And so that's the pre-emergent we don't want to put on too early, because most of the weeds we're trying to target are germinating in May. Early May. And so you put it on too early, it's kind of wearing off when all those weeds are germinating. You don't get really great control. So really the second or third week of April is like prime time for doing a pre-emergent. So it's like right now. It's like right now is great to do that. But I would only do that if you've got spurge or crabgrass or a lot of those weeds, because it doesn't really help a whole lot with dandelions or with clover or mallow or morning glory. There are other pre-emergents that we can use that will work on those.
Target them.
Yeah. So if you've got really bad broadleaf weed problems, we want to use a different pre-emergent. We want to use like Gallery, which comes in a liquid or in a granulated form. And the great thing about Gallery is not only does it kill broadleaf weeds really, really well, so morning glory, thistles, mallow, clover, dandelions, but it lasts for 6 to 8 months.
And you could put it down and
it'll work this spring. It won't really do a whole lot this summer because most of those weeds aren't going to germinate this summer anyway. And then it'll work again this fall. And so you get it on in April or May, and it's going to last until September, October. And it's going to stop all those weeds as they germinate throughout the entire summer. So it's a really great option for people who are struggling consistently with broadleaf weed issues. So if you're dealing with lots of dandelions or clover or morning glory or thistles or mallow or any of those weeds that just are creeping back into your yard every single year, if you use a pre-emergent like Gallery, and you can do it with a fertilizer or you can do it as a liquid application, it will kill the seeds as they germinate. So it won't kill anything that's there already. Bayer has mixed it together with a really nice Trimec broadleaf weed control. And so not only does the Trimec kill what's out there, but then the Gallery mixed in with it prevents all the new ones from coming up. So it's a one-time application, kills weeds, prevents new ones from coming up for 6 months. This is a once-a-year type product that you put on, and it will kill and prevent the weeds from coming up. It's a really great option. It's not as expensive as people think. And in fact, most of your broadleaf weed killers, the last couple of years, the prices have really gone up on the broadleaf weed killers, like double what it used to be, just because of availability and shipping and all those other things. And so being able to do that once instead of having to do multiple applications, it will really save you a lot of money in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one-time application and you should be good.
Yeah. And the product is season-long weed preventer from Bayer. And it's a really great product. Controls the weeds that you've got currently. Needs 70-degree daytime temperatures to put it on. So it's a little bit cool right now, but they're coming. They're coming. And then you would be able to prevent broadleaf weeds for the rest of the summer as well, too. So this is very different from a crabgrass preventer. Crabgrass preventer works on a lot of your weedy grasses, and it kind of helps suppress some of your broadleaf, but not all. This particular product controls broadleaf weeds, but it won't work on crabgrass. Yeah.
So you can kind of plan ahead as we look towards the summer when we're going to be dealing with clover and morning glory and everything.
It's just a really one-of-a-kind type product that really saves you a lot of work and does a great job, and it's very safe to use and really, really effective.
Speaking of planning ahead, we ought to plan ahead for insects in the garden, around the house.
But especially on our trees, for sure. So we've been talking about the tree implants, so like the tree treats. But now's a really good time to prevent any type of insects that are damaging your trees as well, too. So if you've had aphid problems on your lindens or your maples or aphids in some of your ornamental cherries, or if you're dealing with spruce gall on your spruce trees, or leaf miners in your birch, borer in your quaking aspen, or your green ash, this is the time to do the drench on those trees and get that into the trees so it's running through the circulatory system of the trees when the insects start attacking. So we probably won't see aphids this year until probably mid or late May. So now's the time to put your tree and shrub drench on so that when the aphids really attack latter part of May, your trees are already protected, and as the aphids hatch out, start nibbling on the trees, it will kill them. And it does a really, really great job on especially large trees that are difficult to spray. And so our Fertilome tree and shrub drench is one of the easiest products to use. It's super, super safe for people and for pollinators and for beneficial insects as well too, because it only works on insects that attack your target plants. So if you're putting it on a maple tree, aphids are going after that maple, and it will kill the aphids as they start sucking sap out of the tree. If we're doing a birch tree for leaf miners, it'll only kill the leaf miners because they're attacking the leaves.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it won't bother praying mantis. If you use it according to the instructions, it won't bother your bees either. So the insecticide will not transfer into the pollen if you use it according to the directions.
Okay.
If you do it 2 or 3 times stronger than what they recommend, then it could be problematic. Yeah, it could be problematic. But if you're using it according to the label, they have found that there is no transfer of the insecticide into the pollen. So that's really good for those of us who have bees.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I lost both my hives in February. They were great in January. They were looking good. They still had plenty of honey. Everybody was looking good. And that cold weather in February just did them in.
A couple hives in our neighborhood were in the same boat. Our bees took off 1st of November.
Yeah.
When we started getting that wind, they were like, forget
we're out
it.
of here, gone. Yeah,
we went out one day and they were gone.
They were gone. Darn it.
We've got 1 minute left. We want to mention again the pruning class that's coming up this week.
Yeah, so we've got a class on the 6th of April. It's all about pruning. You can sign up with the USU Extension because it's going to be our extension agent, J.D. Gunnell, who's teaching that class at Anderson Seed and Garden on the 6th of April at 6 o'clock. You go to extension.usu, extension.usu.edu, and you can sign up for it right there. And then we've got a grafting class you can sign up for on the 20th of April. Also, that'll be in our greenhouses, and that's hands-on. This is how you learn how to graft. You get to sample, you get to practice, you get to take home goodies as well, too. So that one has a cost to it, where the pruning class is free.
Okay.
Yeah.
And join us again next week. We want to mention, too, over the next week, Bare Root Sale is extended.
Yep. Bare root sale still going. We've got some great trees, lots of bare root fruits. Raspberries will be coming. Strawberries are here. Potatoes, onions, asparagus, you name it. We've got it at Anderson's. Come get it before it's gone.
Yeah. And grab your seeds while you're there.
Yeah.
Void the crowds. Thanks for joining us for the Garden Guide. We'll be back again next week here on KVNU.
News Talk KVNU, Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM. The power of information.